Hi there, friends. My name is Chelsea, or it is now anyway. Um, Today I'm going to be presenting my new design, I suppose, for a community organization. Uh, I guess we'll just get over to the first slide. I guess the best way to explain this. I really wanted to design or explain how to create a long lasting community structure. And this is like a culmination of all my studies right here. So, right, here's me, right? Transgender socialist suburbanite, studying for a bachelor's in political science and sociology with a minor in urban planning at ASU. It actually turned out that all three of these disciplines turned out to be pretty important in the formulation of this idea here for me. I also had a unique opportunity to be a field organizer for the Arizona Democrats in 2024. Because I get to work for the Biden-Harris campaign in Harris Walls. It's because I was studying collective action theory in a class literally every other student dropped. And, well, it turned out one of the people working on the Biden-Harris campaign also had that professor. And so when they reached out to that professor asking, hey, do you know any good students who'd be great for this campaign? I was the only name that came up. So that I was pretty proud of that. You know, everybody else dropped the class, and then I got a job from it. You know, kind of just goes to show sometimes you got to put in the hard work, right? But I've since kind of distanced myself from the Democratic Party because I'm very frustrated with their shortcomings and ineffectiveness. And we'll get more into that later. Well, we're not going to get too into that, actually. Not in this presentation. But that is one of the influences here, for sure. Fun fact also, my office was shot at by a domestic terrorist on no less than 3 occasions. The first time was with BB guns, and so we just changed the glass and didn't tell the volunteers. And then a week later, it was with real bullets, and we shut down the office immediately. It was at nighttime each time. 3 weeks later, it happened again, and nobody had been to the building in weeks, but it still sends a message. Anyway, I just feel like that's an important thing to know about me. Maybe it's just I want people to know. Maybe maybe I've been through a lot and I want people to recognize that. Maybe who knows. Anyway, let's actually talk about the substance here. So, I have this thought experiment for you. If you haven't engaged too much with collective action theory before. This is just to get your mind going with the questions that you need to be thinking about in order to do collective action. If you have a class project, right? It's a 5-minute research presentation in a group of 4. How do you make sure it gets done? How do you make sure that a 12-page paper with a group of 6 gets done? And what's the difference? Why is one more likely to happen than the other? Obviously, you're going to say, well, one's easier, right? But then what do you have to do to make sure that 12-page paper gets done that you might not have to do to make sure that the PowerPoint presentation gets made? You might need to make a group chat. You might need to assign roles and in portions. Whereas with the 5-minute research presentation, you guys might just meet up the night before and get a couple pictures together and make it look pretty, and it'll be chaotic and happen. It might just be like somebody has strict parents and they're like, oh shit, nobody else has done anything on this project. They do the whole thing by themselves. But with the 12-page paper, that's probably not going to happen. With the 12-page paper, it's pretty likely it won't happen at all unless you guys seriously plan. Or one person does it all by themselves. What do you do about freeloaders? What if somebody doesn't respond, doesn't accept any assignments, or, just doesn't contribute at all? What do you do? What if you can't do anything about it? Do you want to do something about it? Would you? Would you let them get away with it because you're friends? These are the questions that you need to be thinking about. So what is collective action? Collective action is a group of individuals taking action to achieve a common goal or produce a common good. It requires coordination, especially on a large scale. Think back to that classroom example. The larger the project that the group has to complete, the more coordination will be required. And a big part of that is the free rider problem, where individuals benefit without contributing. If somebody thinks that someone else is going to do it, then they're going to think, just as a rational actor, or a rational actor meaning you do a person who makes decisions based on what is in their best interest. If everybody is a rational actor, everybody is trying to be a free rider because it is always in your best interest to try to receive the collective benefit without contributing to it. And that is the core issue. Because if everyone's trying to receive without giving, then how does anything happen? And so the whole of collective action studies is how do you make sure that people actually contribute? Or how do you stop them from receiving the benefits of the collective effort if they didn't contribute? How do you withhold that benefit? And, different systems have different successes, and it's really just like, how do you solve this problem? Because there are a lot of different ways. Like, it's actually very technical and mechanical. But there are these studies have some qualitative terms, some phrases, concepts that really break into it. So Mansur Olson, his book really gets into it. It's only 150 pages, if even, extremely short. You could probably bang it out in 2 hours. I highly recommend, from 1965. He really just gets into the whole logic from the perspective of a rational actor. And he really advocates for this idea of selective incentives, which is an additional good that can be withheld from people who do not contribute. So his main analysis was on unions. Is every worker knows that if they stopped working, it would screw over the boss. And if all workers stopped, the boss would have to make concessions, like raise their pay or improve their conditions. But because none of the workers believe that the other workers are going to act in unison, they all believe that they will be the only one who withholds their work. And someone else will probably just step in and make less money to be more exploited, because that's what happens. That's what happens. You don't just strike by yourself. You can't do that. So a union might establish, say, health benefits for members, but you have to pay the dues and you have to participate in the strike if it happens. And so, in order to maintain access to these benefits, the employees have to contribute to the action. They contribute to the action in order to receive the incentive. There's lots of little stuff like that collective action theory gets into. I kind of spun my head in a circle, honestly, thinking about it. But that's the core of our collective action theories. I actually get a lot more into it on this slide, because this was the class I took with the one professor. His name was I'm gonna make sure that we're recording before I keep going. Okay, we are. We're good. Okay, so I studied under Michael Hector. He showed me these 3 wonderful books, and when you really read into them, they actually explain a lot more, all the logic of collective action, but they also just articulate these qualitative features that you need. It is almost impossible. No, not almost impossible. Is impossible to organize collective action without these 4 features. You need communication capacity amongst everyone. They need to be able to talk to each other and give each other that guarantee that action is going to occur. Give them that guarantee, because, otherwise, it's not in your best interest to be the only actor. But it would be in your best interest to contribute to a collective effort if everyone else is, right? Because if everyone goes on a strike, then the strike would actually produce its outcome. And if it actually produces its outcome, it benefits people. And so you need communication capacity in order to get the guarantee that others are going to be acting and that things might happen. Also, just to be able to talk to each other and make plans. There's not collective action without talking to each other. And in The Rational Peasant by Samuel Popkin, he actually gets into the single greatest indicator of collective action is communication and coordination amongst peasants. That's what he studied as peasants. The second thing was dependence on that action. Michael Hechter really got into that with principles of group solidarity. It's basically just like collective want for the thing. If they don't give a shit about the outcome, then why would they contribute to the effort? He frames it as dependence, like if they need it. Say like a road. A city needs a road, so the people pay the tax in order to get the road. But if there's other ways to get the road, say a private company is willing to do it for cheaper, then maybe they would pay that private company instead. But maybe there's a bunch of different companies paying for a bunch of different roads. And I don't know, because there's so many different options, nobody's dependent on any one option. And so nobody's all contributing to one effort. All the efforts are distributed amongst many different efforts. And so no collective action happens. You might get a bunch of really patchy or shitty roads because nobody's contributing to the collective project of building roads for the city, but instead of these greedy projects of building just a road for themselves, which is still too expensive for themselves to afford. It has to be something that they want, and it has to be the path of least resistance to that thing. If they think that there's another way to get it, then they'll just do that other thing, right? Okay? That's dependence. And then you need a trusted and capable leader. This is just the person who does the communicating and makes the plan and communicates it to everybody. But nobody's going to listen to that person unless they trust that they are aligned in goal and capable of accomplishing it. Why would I join a union if the leader of that union is obviously a psychopath who is going to get himself arrested? Or why would I trust that union leader if they don't even work here, if they work for the boss's consulting company, right? You do not listen and do things from somebody that you don't trust, because what if it's not actually in my interest? I don't trust it. And if you don't think that they're capable of doing things, then you don't want to waste your effort or get yourself in trouble by doing what they say. So the leader's got to be viewed as trusted and capable by the people they talk to. And there could be multiple leaders. There could be one big leader. There could be like a couple proxy leaders, because maybe your main leader ain't so popular. But there is a second leader who appeals to all of that one leader's detractors. That's a system that you can set up, and I think if you pay attention to politics, that's kind of what you see a lot of the time. That's what kind of what a vice president does, really. They balance the ticket. Anyway, lastly, most important, you need a system to divide the action into manageable parts and monitor whether parts are completed. Dr. Hector said you could issue sanctions to people who don't do the assigned parts, but I don't think that's actually necessary. I mean, voting is a collective action effort, and it is illegal to issue rewards or sanctions to people for not voting or voting a way that you don't want them to. And yet, millions, tens of millions of people vote in America every year. And so I see those rewards and sanctions as not necessary for the production of collective action. But you still do need to divide the action into manageable parts and monitor whether parts are completed, because that free rider problem kind of really comes from like two main things. It's like that is an overwhelming amount of work that I don't want to do, and two, I don't think it's going to matter if I don't do it. And that second part kind of has two parts to it. I don't think anyone will notice if I don't do it, and I don't think it will make a difference if I don't do it. Right? And what we're doing is we're basically changing that. We're making it manageable. It doesn't seem overwhelming. Maybe it's 2 to 3 hour volunteer shifts. And we're creating a system which watches, monitors, verifies whether assignments are completed and carried out. Because once you start thinking, oh shit, they will know that I was supposed to do this and then I didn't, that kind of makes it a lot more awkward to not do it. And you tend to do it more. And you don't even need a control like Dr. Hector thought there must be a control mechanism assigned to that monitor capacity, but it's not necessarily the case. When I was working for the Democrats, we would just assign people to, or we'd sign them up for, say, canvassing on Saturday, and then on Saturday we would mark whether they came or not, and if they didn't, we'd call them, say, hey, we had you signed up to come on down and we didn't see you here. Did you have any trouble making it? Oh, you didn't have any trouble? Did you change your mind about defending democracy? Okay, next week then? Next week? Okay, yeah. Next week, you'll save the world. You see, we would monitor whether he came, and then do something about it. We'd say, hey, we noticed that you didn't came. You didn't do the shift that you assigned to do. You signed up to do. Will you do it next week? So we're like reassigning that part to him. But we could also reassign it to somebody else. You got to keep track of how much work gets done. You've got to make clear to people that their efforts will be observed, their lack thereof will be observed. And I mean, I also think optionally, or not optionally, but like tell them how important it is, or let them see how important it is. I think those kind of fit into a type of reward. It's kind of like a social or psychological reward of showing them the impact of their efforts. But I definitely think it should be done whenever possible, because I kept thinking this throughout my time at the Democrats. Everybody who wants to help wants to feel helpful. And if their efforts feel like drops in a bucket, it feels like you want to feel like you're a cog in a machine, and that your presence there is helping the machine. But if your efforts feel like a drop in the bucket, you feel like a cog on the floor, disconnected, not doing anything. It feels like you're wasting time. Nobody wants to be a cog on the floor. And so you've got to create a system that gives people that feeling of being interconnected with all the other cogs and contributing a material or just quantifiable benefit to the effort. That's what gets people to do things. So, moving on here. It's me. I was just talking about this. It's the Arizona Democrats and collective action. This is just like a little bit of an analysis of how they do things based on that theory we was just talking about. Hold on. I need a yawn or burp or something right now. It was both. Sorry. Pardon my unprofessionalism. That's why my camera's off right now. Just this video needed to be produced because I need to get these concepts out. Alrighty. So sorry. So we mobilized over 7,000 volunteers, not just my office, but like across the state, to do phone banks and canvases. We did this mostly through like social events and rallies. Whenever people would sign up for these online, they would give us their contact information, which would be inputted into our internal database, which enabled communication and created a system to divide voter contact efforts into shifts and monitor whether shifts are assigned and completed. Basically, people sign up for our events. We get their phone number. We call them a million times, say, please, 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 the world is going to end. You have to knock on some doors on Saturday. Then they'd sign up. And we'd hold a little carrot in front of them, say, ooh, you want to come to an event? You want to come to an event? You can get some t-shirts if you come to our events. And so that get more people to sign up. But we'd also hold exclusive events or give extra merchandise to volunteers who'd done a lot of work with us. Because, you got to reward your folks. We're talking about rewards. I don't need to explain the importance of rewards, but that's what we do. Those would be our selective incentives. Now, this right here, this picture, is one of my proudest moments of the whole campaign. We were holding trivia at this bar called Spokes. We packed the place with folks every other Friday. You know why? It's because we would offer prizes to whoever would win trivia. Basically, whole back area of the bar is closed off just for the Democrats. Whole bar is dead, but we took the back area. I shouldn't call it dead, but it kind of did seem dead. It was 4 o'clock on a Friday, so I don't know. It looked kind of empty to me, but I don't go to bars, so I can't even judge. We packed the place, though. We packed the place, and we packed it because I said in all the emails, said, you'll get extra points for your team if you bring folks who had never been to any of our events before. And because people were just, they really wanted these t-shirts, they'd bring more people every time. They bring new people every time just to get those points. And so then these people would be signed up for our system. They'd be joining the network as well. And so we created a selective incentive for the t-shirt. We created two layers, a selective incentive. The t-shirt is the incentive to go to trivia, but the extra points are the incentive to bring your friends. And so people are recruiting their own friends on our behalf so that we could bring them in. That's relational organizing also, getting people to bring their own friends in. That Democrats love that word. Anyway, I was very, very much a fan of that, and I was very proud to get to apply theory in real life, because that was all my idea. The trivia, the t-shirt prizes, the extra points if you bring friends, all me, because I'm smart, and I read theory. Now, this important part, we did this thing called confirms. I'll get to that in a sec. We did 200 cold calls a day, get people to sign up, and we mark them in our system as scheduled. And then we do confirms, which is the day before the shift. We just call them and say, hey, just wanted to double check that you're still on for that canvassing Saturday in Mesa, and that you got the address. You got that? Heck yeah. And then we mark them as confirmed, or they say, ooh, shit, I forgot. I got a dentist appointment. Then we mark them as declined and try to reschedule them. And then when they get there, we mark them as completed. If they never show up, we mark them as no-show. That was how our database would monitor whether things happen or not. And we did not need to issue sanctions to people who did not show up, though we would stop calling to confirm them if they if they scheduled themselves every week but never confirmed and never showed up. Then we just start being like, oh, you're a person who signs up but doesn't go. We will not call you anymore, because that'd be a waste of our time. Okay, we were full screen, right? It didn't just do that. Okay, it did just do that. Okay. So this is the back area filled up with this. There's me in the back. The back right, you see, I'm I'm turning around, watching, smiling. Look how great a time everyone's having, especially Andrew right there with the paper, about to read the questions. I actually invited my dad. I don't know if he's in this picture. It doesn't look like it. And he said, as a bartender, I just had to look around and say, it's a shame this is all going away after November. Because he's thinking about how much money they're making in tips every other Friday when we're doing trivia night. And that got to me. That thought got to me. I was like, holy shit, yeah. All these people making friends with each other, drinking, just playing trivia. Like, this is a political campaign, but they're making real friendships here. And why should that end just because the election's over? And it hits me. It hits me. Action-oriented organizing, you can ignore. You don't have to write this down. It's not going to be on the test because an AI wrote this slide. Action-oriented organizing is what I call it. It's when your campaign, when your organizing efforts are devoted to organizing people for one collective action, one collective goal. A lot of the time, it's top-down because organizing takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of knowledge, and a lot of that usually just comes from outside. And well, that's no good because outside organizers don't really care about the community. The Democrats, I was the only person at the Democrats who worked from Arizona. I was the only person at the Democrats from Arizona in my office for 2 months. And I was the only person at the Arizona Democrats with actual experience canvassing in Arizona professionally the entire time. Because the Democrats, they just like to fly people in and do the organizing and then pack up and leave. And that's no good. Not a fan of that. Not a fan. Because they're withholding that communication infrastructure from the community. I didn't put this in the PowerPoint, but I got into 2 car accidents while working for the campaign. First one was not my fault. The second one absolutely was. And, well, it would have cost me like $4,000 to fix the car or have it totaled. But some of the volunteers were some car guys that were kind of just like hanging out and like, yo, wait, we could help you fix this. You could just buy the parts. And so I got like $4,000 of repairs for free, just like I paid $300 for parts. Just and probably wouldn't have actually cost $4,000. That's just the quote insurance gave. You know, they're like that. But like, a lot of people have that in their lives. You know, they have friends, uncles, family members who are good with cars or good with computers or something, some kind of, you know, craftsman or handy skill that can save hundreds of dollars in specialist fees. You know. And I think everyone should have access to those opportunities. Obviously, we cannot just be exploiting our friends for free. But, like, they can give us much more reasonable prices than the companies out there, you know. And I think everyone should have the opportunity. Like, I am incredibly lucky to have had people who were willing to do that for me. And I just wish everybody did. And I think that's possible. Action-oriented organizing withholds the ability for people to make the connections that would allow that to happen. And that is a great tragedy. So here, my no approach, solidarity-based organizing. I've designed this to address the shortcomings of action-oriented organizing, prioritizing enabling a community to empower itself and achieve its own goals, because the community builds the organization instead of an outside funding source. Emphasizes establishing communication amongst the community and uses that as the foundation for a self-sustaining organization. I don't even... AI wrote this slide too. I wrote like 30 pages. That's an exact 20 pages of like academic paper explaining all this, and then a couple of these slides I just wanted to see how AI would do if it tried to summarize it onto a slide. I did mostly make this myself. I need to make a real think piece on the conundrums of AI, its ability to think, its ability to be a piece of shit and fuck over our society. Just this slideshow is not the end all be all of this these ideas. I have a more formal articulation of it elsewhere, but I felt like this was the best way to present it to others. This one, don't even look at this slide. This is nonsense. AI did that. This, I did it. I did this. Look at this. So on our left, we got action-oriented organizing with your central org coming down with its one-directional communication channels, compelling individual actions towards a central goal, whose material benefit only goes to that central organization. That is the Democratic campaign. The Democratic National Committee coming down, getting all these volunteers to canvass for the promotion of democratic values, which only help the Democratic Party, and then disappearing without helping anybody else at all whatsoever. Which is, I mean, it's just tragic. Then we got our solidarity-based organizing, which you can see has kind of two distinct stages right there. So let's see if we can break this down. Am I able to zoom in? No, I am not. Okay. So what you're looking at here, we have our individuals spread out amongst a line, and we have these dotted blue lines connecting them. Those dotted blue lines represent the communication infrastructure between individuals. And floating above them, we see black dots representing individual goals and individual problems. And we see little pods of individuals with black arrows kind of converging on whichever individual goal or individual problem is closest to them. This is to kind of represent individuals coming together to solve individual problems. This might be, like my example, the couple guys who wanted to save me money, helped me fix my car. That's not the collective goal. It's not a central goal. Not everyone gives a shit about that, but that helped me a lot. And it improved my ability to participate in civic action. Because instead of having to come up with that money or get a new car, I could get back to it. So these uncoordinated small-scale actions, enabled by communication and solidarity, build our community. And in stage 2, we start doing deliberate action, using action-oriented organizing strategies to use the established communication infrastructure to organize towards collective goals. And you see these red arrows coming out from the collective goals, representing the material benefits from the collective goals being accomplished by the organization are going back to the individuals, whereas in the action-oriented side, that material benefits only went back to the central organization. These material benefits go back to the individuals, and you see there are also red lines connecting these individuals. And that is representing how it reinforces the bonds formed between individuals and enables more cooperation. Maybe one of those material benefits is a carpool program between the individuals. And now they are, maybe there's a few people who wanted to help, but they didn't have a car to get to wherever the volunteering was. Now the carpool program gets them there, and we have more volunteers to accomplish more things than we did before. So, where's the money? Right? I figured out how to improve their organizing approach, but how the hell am I going to do it? Where's the money, right? Well, it turns out there's a little more to it than that, right? Because I don't got any money. I don't got any money. In terms of money, we have no money. So here's how we're going to deal with that problem, right? Before, we were relying on the external organization to bring in the money, and we didn't ask questions about where that came from. We just accepted the help. But now we are going to be building our help from the ground up. And that means we're actually building a fucking economy. A little microeconomy. And if you're going to build a microeconomy, you're going to learn a little bit about economics. So here's where my urban planning studies came into play. We got this guy, Robert Murray Hague, I don't know. He was an urban planner for the 1928 Regional Plan for New York and its environs. And he used this idea to design cities for economic growth. And it's become very popular. And it's very used. This is also seen as the circular flow model in business economics. But in urban planning, we call it economic base theory. Basically, the whole thing is your economy is basically like this bucket, right? And water is flowing into this bucket. And if you want to have a lot of water in order to, I don't know, make a lot of spaghetti, a lot of soup, I don't know, whatever you want water for. In order to get a lot of water, you got to make sure your bucket don't have holes. But your bucket, it sure has a lot of holes. And I mean a lot of them. So basic activities are these ideas, these things that bring new money into your bucket. That's manufacturing goods. It's like if you have a factory, that is a basic activity for your city. Non-basic activities are things that circulate or extract existing money within your community. That's your retail stores, your Walmarts. Now, most people would say circulate money is what non-basic activities do, but that is wrong. Because retail stores, like Walmart, are owned by multinational corporations. The money that goes to Walmart does not come back to the community. And that is actually why America has been in decay for the last 50 years. Very simply, America has been shifting away from basic activities and towards non-basic activities. And these non-basic activities are all run by corporations which are not based in their local communities. And so they are extracting wealth from these local communities to other ones. Instead of your $10 going to your local grocery store who's going to be paying local farmers and local workers, now they're going to Walmart. And that's it. Where the hell is Walmart? Far away. Where is Walmart? I think it's in a different country. Their headquarters. They're millionaires. They're CEOs. they're billionaires. It's all leaving your community, and it isn't coming back. And that is why American cities are suffering. It's because we're not manufacturing goods. We're sending our money away. And that's how economies die. But that's also shows you how to build an economy. You got to pack up these leakages, maximize injections, right? So how does that apply to our ideas? Oh, wait. Did I? Oh, I moved the slides around. Oh, no. Okay. How does it apply to our ideas? I'll explain it now. We'll get back to it later, but I'll explain it now. We're trying to build a little economy here. And we have leakages. But let's not think about it like money. Let's think about it like resources, right? We have our group of people with a collection of resources, but we're losing them all the time to outside society. This when we pay rent, that is money that we're not paying in dues. When we have to pay for food that's overpriced, that's a leakage. Transportation, gas, leakage. Long commutes, that's a leakage of time. Our communities are having our resources, our time, our money wasted by outside institutions that are trying to take the most money from us as possible. And in order to build a strong, lasting community, we need to keep money in our own community, or keep time and resources in our own community. When you do a carpool for somebody else, like I was showing in my last thing, when you carpool somebody to work or to an event, you're saving them time. You're either saving them money on an Uber or you're saving them time on transit. In either way, they have more now than they had before. And it probably didn't cost you as much to provide to them as it would have cost them to provide to themselves. Maybe it cost you an extra 25 minutes on the road and, I don't know, $3 of gas, or a gallon of gas. Let's call it a gallon. Whereas for them, it would have been about the same amount of time, 10 minutes waiting for the Uber, 15 minutes riding it, but also like $15 to $20 to pay for it. And so you have saved them $20, which they can spend on food or on, I don't know, a date with their friends or with their girlfriend or a date with one of their friends. I don't know, hanging out with their friends. That's what it's called. By packing up these leakages, we are enabling people to contribute to their communities more, is what I'm trying to say. And we'll get more into that later. But for now, we'll also talk about this other theory right here, solidarity and collective effort, effervescence. It comes from Durkheim. I didn't read his book, but it comes from that. Elementary forms of a religious life. Basically, Emile Durkheim, one of the founders of sociology, I think the founder of sociology, in fact, is trying to understand religion from the perspective of an atheist. And an atheist doesn't believe in God, but they do recognize that a lot of people do. And a lot of people feel like they've felt God. And those feelings are real, even though they might not actually be related to a godly figure. So Durkheim really wanted to understand this, and his conclusion was that religion feels powerful because of collective effervescence. It's this feeling produced in group settings when individuals resonate most with their identity as a member of that group. And this feeling strengthens an individual's attachment to their community. Think about churches during prayer. Think about punk concerts when they're moshing in the pit. Think about rallies when they're chanting, "We're not going back. We're not going back," when everybody joins in. It feels kind of awesome. Think about sports fans when points are scored. Think about Marvel fans when Spider-Man shows up. It's like, oh my god, it's Spider-Man. When Andrew Garfield came through the portal, like, whoa, you know? That's collective effervescence. That's the feeling that you get from religion. But it's not just religion that does that. Because if God isn't real, then it's not only God that can do that. It is when you feel that you are part of a group and that group is aligned with you. It comes from these, and it's a very strong feeling that makes you like kind of want to keep going for it. That is kind of what gives cults their cult-like feeling. or that cult-like feeling is what an outsider feels when collective effervescence is going on, really. You're in a room and you see everyone with their collective effervescence, and if you don't feel it either, you're just like, what's going on here? That, you know. So Durkheim believed that collective effervescence is kind of really built by these like groups, rituals, symbols, and totems. And it's because they've got meanings attached to them by the group. And it's recognizing their shared meaning, which necessitates and validates group membership, which produces that collective effervescence. I see it as like the feeling of solidarity. Collective effervescence is the emotion that you get when you feel solidarity. Some people really focus on how Emile Durkheim laid out how religion has like the sacred and the profane, is like how religions organize what's good and what's bad. But I kind of don't give a shit about those ideas. I don't know. Say, let's just take Christianity, right? Christianity has the crosses to symbolize Christ and the pentagram to symbolize Satan. But I feel that even like people who wear the pentagram are still recognizing the group membership of Christianity. You know, they're like, someone who wears a pentagram is acknowledging that the greater society that they are within believes that that is an evil sign, and they are still rejecting the order that is trying to be, but they're rejecting the order that's trying to be placed on them, but in that rejection they're still like accepting the meaning that the group has placed onto that, but they're embracing it anyway. I guess my point is to be, it's the fact that you are all collectively recognizing a meaning from it, which produces collective effervescence. I also personally believe this is why inside jokes are funnier than not inside jokes. I think inside jokes, or jokes in general, are an in-group, out-group test that people perform on each other to determine knowledge, in-group or out-groupness, or opinion. Right? A political joke is only funny if you agree with the person who makes the joke. Otherwise, you think it's tacky. You don't like it. It's because you're outside the group. You think it's funny if you're in the group. That's why inside jokes are funnier. You're in the group and other people aren't. Puns are less funny because it feels like it's a test that you could have passed ages ago. It's a test you've already taken. That's why you groan when you hear a pun. It's a test that you're already taken. You're not proud of passing that test. You're annoyed that you were even asked to take that test, honestly. I think I got on a bit of a side tangent. Collective effervescence is a very fascinating concept. I also think jokes are important to it as well, but they're not explained by Durkheim, and it's like one of my own theories, so I need to just like do more research and articulation on that before I try to write it down anywhere. Anyway, so all this comes together. We got collective action theory with Mansur Olson. We got our economic base analysis. We got our collective effervescence. And that is our recipe for liberation, my friends. Without any further ado, let me introduce you to the principles of solidarity-based organizing. All right, 3 core concepts. Solidarity produces action at a small scale. At a small scale, I almost said the opposite. You know, encourage people to address manageable problems, build social bonds, and self-reliance. Right? If you establish communication with people and make them give a shit about each other, then they'll do things for each other. And so they got to talk to each other, and they got to start giving a shit about each other. And they only start giving a shit about each other, they start talking to each other and hanging out and stuff. Attending to economic needs enables greater cooperation. I already explained this a bunch of times, but I'll explain it one more time. Recognizing, meeting people's needs increases their capacity to help, right? You give someone a carpool to work, they can show up to work on time more often and save a lot of money and contribute that money to other things. Save a lot of time, spend that time doing better things. And then remember from the very beginning, deliberate action or deliberate organization enables large-scale action. Large-scale action cannot occur without deliberate organization. Yeah. So we got a couple key components to this solidarity-based organizing that I think really make it work. We got your community bulletin, right? This is where you're going to get your communication capacity from. This is the most important part of solidarity-based organizing. Once you got this, you're doing it. You're doing some SBO. It enables members to solve issues independently without organizers. This is it's like a town square, right? It just enables mutual aid and community development without the organizers actually having to figure out things, right? People like this picture right here. This actually isn't what most community bulletins are going to look like, but that is where the word comes from. And this serves the exact same function. This functionally is a community bulletin in all the ways that I want it to be, because anybody can walk up and tape their flyer to that bulletin, and anybody else can see that flyer and look at it and make a call and say, yo, I'm in. And whoever made this bulletin board has no further involvement in the actions that it enables. You see, you understand? Someone put up this bulletin board, and all of this is happening on its own now. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But it goes beyond the bulletin board, because physical bulletin boards are so 1920. Now it is all about the internet, and we've got other ways to have a centralized communication hub that can enable independent problem solving by community members. And I mostly mean Discord. Slack accomplishes the same things, but honestly, Slack is made by a bunch of losers who just don't want to stoop down to the level of Discord. It is a bunch of people who wear ties who don't want to be associated with people who don't. I think an effective community organizing effort will use Discord, because it is easier to build a community by finding people where they are and not trying to bring them to where you are, which is the whole point of solidarity-based organizing. People are already on Discord for fun. To play with their friends, they are on Discord for fun. Not everyone is on Slack, because Slack is strictly utilitarian. Discord is not strictly utilitarian, and the bulletin board cannot be strictly utilitarian. It needs to foster solidarity, build solidarity and friendship and social bonds, get people to care about each other. And they don't care about each other if they're only ever talking on office meetings. They need to have fun with each other, play Minecraft with each other, listen to music with each other, share memes with each other. And that's only going to happen in a more informal setting where social interactions are promoted. And so I suggest Discord, because people are already on that and used to using it for fun, for building friendships and community. And that's what this is fucking about. But if you're trying to organize an office, or people who are averse to stuff like that, you can use Slack, but I would try to use Discord, because most people probably already have it. So, community identity. This is going to be your second part. Or actually, I'd say this is your third. But it's second on my in the order of the slides, because I kept rearranging them before recording. This community identity is where your collective effervescence is coming from. This slide is a little less developed. But basically, you got your symbols, your rituals, your totems. You need to basically get these kinds of things to be produced. But it's hard to... You can't just put it onto a community. Because if people don't accept the meanings that you try to attach to these, if people don't accept those meanings, then you're not creating a community identity. You're trying to assign a community identity, and people don't resonate with an identity that they are assigned. They have to take it or craft it themselves. I always think, like, with a lot of politics, with a lot of, like, group stuff, when you want people to do something, you kind of have to get them to come up with the idea themselves, And so these things, doesn't really matter what they are, but you've got to, like, find a way to incentivize people to produce them on their own. Producing art, memes, songs, dances. You can issue trophies or awards to folks. You can try to create totems, but just, like, you got to be smart with the meanings and what you choose to represent what, because people need to accept these meanings, or it doesn't do anything. Now, this is actually the second component, which is which you can clearly see I thought a lot more about. So after you establish your community bulletin, you got to think about your community economy. To grow your community's power, treat it like an economy. Minimize your leakages, maximize your injections. And I've identified 5 core leakages. You've got your food and water, your housing, your energy, your transportation, and your time inefficiency. These are what everybody has to spend money on. And if a community can find a way to address any or all of these leakages, it can radically transform the lives of the people within it. Because these are such costly things, right? If someone covers all your food or all your housing, or all your transportation, or finds a way to save you several hours a day, energy is not something that the individual considers, but is something that the community has to consider, I think. Unless your electric bill is pretty high. I don't think about mine because it's pretty low. But energy is also going to be pretty important to consider. So those are the 5 great leakages, and I think a community just needs to regularly find ways to address those for its members to enable them to participate with each other more. And then you got your injections. This can be literally anything, but some like common ideas that I wanted to throw out there is like merchandise. Maybe you come up with a logo, back to the identity thing, and you sell that logo on t-shirts, on backpacks, on flags, banners, whatever, as merchandise. And that merchandise creates injections for the community, which can fund some project. You could sell food at the farmer's market. You could sell art. Or you could actually manufacture goods if you have the means to do so. And sell them outside of the community. Sell them to people who are not in the community to bring more resources in. Or produce new resources for the community. That's another thing. You can also produce new resources within the community. Conduct meetings to locate these leakages and organize actions to find them. That's what the community is going to have to do. I'd say have a monthly meeting or surveys. Your strategy for doing this is going to vary. But I think meetings with your organizers to at least discuss strategies would be important. When people's leakages are addressed, they have more time and money to help. So I've actually created a working prototype of my ideas. I didn't crop this right, I guess, because it's covering some of the words. I developed this working prototype. This company I work for, we're just going to call it R1. Sorry, something in my throat. At R1, I've created this Discord server to unite all the workers. Our job title is called associates. So here we see a picture of an individual named Parker just asking for a ride to their 7 p.m. shift. And that's basically the core of what the R1 Discord server does. It provides mutual aid benefits. And as we started trading shifts and organizing carpools, more people joined. Because that's a great benefit. When you tell someone, hey, join this group chat so that you can get shift covers, shift trades, or carpools, they kind of want to join. Because, everyone wants to pick up more shifts. Nobody wants to face consequences for not finding a cover for a shift when they had to call out. And sometimes you do have to call out. And everybody who doesn't have a car needs a ride to work. And so, instead of saying, hey, I want to unionize this workplace, which gets a lot of people to be defensive. They don't know what that means. They don't know how much that entails. They fear about retaliation. Instead of saying that, I say, do you want to join a group to get a carpool? And of course, yes. So they join. And I got more than 35 people to join in less than a month. I also started, we started sharing selfies, memes, original music we like, and, I don't know, news about video games. And this community engagement started building friendships between the coworkers, between departments. And these friendships started getting them to hang out with each other outside of work. People in different departments who hadn't met each other before, who probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to talk to each other outside of work because they never would have had the chance to exchange contact information directly. They have different schedules. And several workers are actually artists who are sharing their independent art with us. And, like, I didn't even try. That wasn't, like, I did say I want art to be produced in the community, but I didn't, like, do anything to try to produce art or artists. These artists just wanted to share the art that they were already making. And, like, that's a big part of it. Just give people a place to share the things that they're already doing. Workers are becoming friends with each other, and it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. And now we've got like 8 different channels, like one channel for every department, and a channel for trading shifts, and for carpools, and for Minecraft, and for music. And we're having a great time. But we've also developed the infrastructure where now, because so many people are in the server, I can do an @everyone ping and send a message to the whole company at once. None of the managers can do that because none of them have everybody's contact information in the same way. They could do an email, but it would not be as effective as in @everyone ping on Discord. I have more communication capacity with the employees than the workers do, or than the managers do. And this gives me the ability, I could start organizing meetings. I might call them parties and get people to show up and then start agitating them about grievances at work, about working conditions, and escalate them towards a point where they might want to do collective action. I don't think I'm actually going to do that because I don't really have the energy at the moment. I'm keeping it on the table. I'm keeping it on the table. But it's something that I can do. I just got a lot on my plate right now, but I'm still very proud to have enabled this system, which has saved people hundreds of dollars. I'd say probably a collective $600 as a community have been saved in just the 2 months that this has been active. Now, this isn't in a collective treasury. These are in individual bank accounts. So the community as a whole has distributedly saved like $600, but no individual has gotten that amount, and there is no bank account that is sitting with the savings. With they're probably already spent by now too. I'm very proud that I could demonstrate the ability for this to happen. It's basically my new solution to the free rider. My new solution to the free rider problem is simply help people find the small problems. If the big problems require deliberate coordination, and I do not have the capacity to enact deliberate coordination at this time, then I can still enable people to identify and address the small problems which do not necessitate deliberate coordination. And through that, they are still establishing the communication infrastructure which would enable action-oriented organizing at a later time. And now that it's summer, and now that I'm not working in class now that I'm not working and in class, I could start carrying out some one-on-one conversations with people in each department to lead a unionization effort. How does solidarity-based organizing address the shortcomings of action-oriented organizing? It's long-term. It's not based on one campaign. It's about empowering the community. It's about all other issues instead of just one project. And it's from the bottom up. Now you might be thinking, Eli, have you really just been yapping for the last hour about how you can save the world with a measly little group chat? Yes, I have been, but I've also been talking about theory, asshole. So maybe try to listen, because you need some deliberate organization to make this all work. All right. It's not just a group chat. There's theory here. You got to actively manage this group chat, and here's how you do it. Right, I've laid it out for you. You got your key components of your long-term solidarity-based organizing model. You got your community bulletin to facilitate communication. You got your system to break tasks into shifts and track shift assignments and progress. You got a strong community identity to foster belonging and encourage participation. You got regular community building actions to strengthen relationships and address needs. Your organizers, their goals are to do these 8 tasks right here. Stimulate community spaces. You don't want the community space, your bulletin, to just be dry, see no messages for 2 years. You ever join a Discord server and nobody sent a message for 2 years? You really don't want to be the first person to send a message there, do you? And kind of same with a town square. If everybody's keeping to themselves, nobody wants to show up. And so you need to break the ice. You need to stimulate the area to make it welcoming so that people will actually engage with each other. Because it is these chance engagements, these unplanned interactions, which drive the foundation of our society. Your organizers need to evaluate community needs and conditions, develop strategies to address economic leakages and increase resources, empower active members to take on higher roles, because if it's volunteer based, you're gonna have to train staff from within, right? Train your members to be volunteers. You're gonna have to host events. You're gonna have to recruit new people. You're gonna have to run your confirms. You're gonna have to recognize accomplished members and celebrate community achievements. That last part is like to kind of broadcast, to brag to people who aren't in the community yet. So they see the achievements and they're like, oh shit, I could have access to all of that if I just joined this group. Hell yeah. Each of these actions based on one of the elements of the 3 theories we discussed earlier. And I think each of these actions will grow your organization, improve the well-being of its members, or grow its capacity to improve their well-being. I've rephrased this here in a way that I think actually makes a lot more sense here. Your solidarity-based organization, if it is going to effectively embrace these 3 theories that I presented to you, is going to have 2 main components: your solidarity apparatus and your collective action apparatus. Your solidarity apparatus, its main purpose is to grow the network and strengthen social bonds. And your collective action apparatus will accomplish projects to strengthen either apparatus. And you're going to use economic-based analysis in the solidarity apparatus to determine the goals of your collective action apparatus. So, in your solidarity apparatus, you're going to be establishing 6 programs, right? You're going to have your community bulletin and a moderation team. You're going to have regular evaluations of community conditions and identifying leakages and potential injections, your strategy sessions. You're going to have your recruitment programs, whether it's hosting events or cold calling people and inviting them, or door knocking, whatever that is. That recruitment program might have to be part of the collective action apparatus at times. I'm not sure. I think it fits better in solidarity, though. You got your stimulation programs. This is, breaking the ice, making sure the Discord has messages more recent than 2 years ago, making sure that people feel like they're not entering. Nobody wants to sit at a lunch table where everyone's already friends, right? Stimulation has to kind of make it feel welcoming, that people are allowed to join without feeling like they're intruding on something. And your recognition program to give rewards to people who participate in collective action, and your celebration program to broadcast to outsiders the accomplishments of your solidarity-based organization. And then your collective action apparatus is actually kind of just going to be a mimic of the campaign that I worked on before. You can have your volunteer management database with training events and programs. You're going to have mobilization, which is where you're making your calls through your list of members from the solidarity apparatus, that network, and schedule them into events and volunteer shifts. And then you're going to have your event conference program like the Democrats had, just to remind people of the events that they signed up for or their shifts beforehand to ensure attendance. Now, this is actually a lot more important than you might think. The Democrats would always say only about 80% of confirmed attendees show up, and that's basically true. I don't know if it was based on real numbers or vibes, but it seemed pretty true. If someone wasn't confirmed for an event that they signed up for, almost without fail, they would not show up. There was a few people who wouldn't pick up the phone to confirm because they'd been with us for so long. But if they had never been with us before, if they did not confirm to us over the phone or over text or email or by some way confirm to us in the 72 hours before the event, if they didn't confirm that they were going to go, then they did not go. They usually forgot. And so confirms are going to be extremely important. So that's it. Look at that. That is 11 key programs that a organization needs to run. I feel like this is an extremely specific plan that people obviously, I'm not listing out detail for detail what each program is going to do and how it's going to be done. But I don't think I should dictate that. I'm just dictating what needs to be done, and other people who adapt this model from me can determine how that can be carried out. So you got 3 steps. Establish your communication capacity with your community bulletin. Start developing your 2 apparatus, and then operate them. That's the hard part. Because, even in my R1 example, I've established our communication capacity. I've developed the framework for the apparatus. Do I want to start training people to operate the apparatus? I kind of don't. That's the hard part. That's the hard part, isn't it? I have to train people into it. But that's kind of what this PowerPoint is. This is to train people to understand my full vision. Because I want to build these apparatus. I do genuinely. It's a lot of effort, and I want people to understand my full vision before I start telling them what to do. I created this whole PowerPoint so that you understand. I know what I'm talking about with this vision that I have, and I have a vision. This is trying to establish my credibility as a capable leader. Forget this slide. AI did it, and it's nonsense. I kind of fucking hate it. The possibilities here are going to be endless. Straight up. You can use this model as an easy start to labor organizing. Or as a model for urban governance. Host your town halls. Communication capacity. Make sure people at the town halls talk to each other and not just to the speaker. Oh, there's no picture here. An online community or a super community with a bulletin to unite all communities. This is what we're talking about. What if we enabled communication between all the communities? Because doing collective action but amongst organizations is actually the same as doing it amongst individuals. Just treat each organization as an individual which is made up of individuals, and the logic all works the same, actually. It's weird, but it kind of does. So what do you do with this information? Now you've listened to me yap for an hour and a half. What can you do with this information? Well, I want to start an organization, right? But I acknowledge that there's a very slim chance that the organization that I create is the organization that saves the world. And so then that makes me not want to make an organization. But that wouldn't be it either, because it wouldn't be useless for me to start something, right? It wouldn't be useless. It's just unlikely that any one organization will unite all humanity. But all organizations would benefit from communication with one another, which can be facilitated through co-membership. Think solidarity between organizations. And ultimately, I do envision, just as the IWW, Industrial Workers of the World, do, one big union which coordinates all the other unions and organizations. I don't think it would be just one, but there'd be a lot of like super organizations that unite a bunch of other ones. So, what steps can you take now that you've heard me yap? Right? Well, I'd like you to join my Discord, the Solidarity Project, even just to socialize and help stimulate it, to help me and my people stay together, get stimulated. Help me out here, all right? I'd appreciate it. You can practice some solidarity yourself in your own life. Actually, that's the most important takeaway. You're already in some organizations, aren't you? Why don't you meet some of the other people? I bet more likely than not, if you listen this far, you're part of the Democratic Party or the Green Party. But how many registered Democrats are you on a first name basis with? I mean, right? I mean, maybe a good amount, maybe a lot of your friends. But my point is, like, make friends within these organizations that you're already in, right? If you are in a club, make friends with the people in the club. If you are in a gaming community, make friends with other people in that gaming community, all these online communities, these fandoms. Any type of community which you are in, you should communicate with the people who are in those communities, because they have things in common with you, and they might be able to help you, or maybe you might be able to help them. And also, I bet you could use some friends. Everybody could. Tell the organizations you're in about the importance of the community bulletin, about caring for the community as an economy, and about communication with other organizations. Lobby for the organizations that you're in to establish or adopt these principles, because I think that these will strengthen their strength as a community. Right? So many organizations are just doing top-down communication. They send you an email, they beg for fundraising, then they fuck off. But if they tried to establish more lateral communication, peer-to-peer communication amongst members of the organization and not just from leadership to members, that will enable a lot of community prosperity, which can culminate in the development of a more effective community, if managed properly. Start a community bulletin yourself for your coworkers, friends, family, neighborhoods, fandoms, online community. Just like more community. The whole thing. Monkeys didn't develop language, and that's the reason that we're like smarter than them. Literally. I mean, I don't know how to make it simpler than that. Communication. It feels stupid. It feels so mind-numbingly obvious that the secret to liberating humanity from the chains of capitalism is fucking talking to each other. Do the dishes, Don't exploit your wife and make her do them. Drive your friends to work, you know? If you have a coworker who takes the bus, imagine how they feel knowing that you take 15 minutes to get home and you could take an extra 5 minutes to drop them off, but you don't even consider that. I mean, they probably don't blame you, but imagine how much it would help the people in your community if you just asked them, do you have a ride home from work? There's no reason not to ask that question to everybody you work with. There's no reason whatsoever. There's no reason not to. I mean, if they don't trust you, I get it. That's fine. But, like, there's so much help that we are capable of. We can help each other with so many things. And we don't even know that other people around us are going through these hardships. And it's because we don't fucking talk to each other. And now we're talking to AI about our problems instead of to other people. And if other people don't know about your problems, then other people aren't going to solve them. But other people do sometimes solve your problems because the human race is a compassionate species. And if you tell people you need help, you have a much higher chance of receiving it than if you don't. Communication. Offer help. Receive help. Because we are going into Plato's cave and times are about to get tough. The only... I like to say this a lot. We're going into a media environment where AI makes it easier to manipulate the truth more than ever. Where Trump's fascist administration is threatening to suspend habeas corpus and is intimidating media personalities for speaking out against him. We are going into a post-truth society. And when you go into Plato's cave, when you can't tell what's real and what's not, the only truth left to cling to anymore is the warmth of your fellow cave dwellers. And with that ends my lecture. Thank you for attending class. This has been Chelsea Newpath. If you enjoyed what I had to share with you today, please subscribe to this channel, because I am the survivor of domestic terrorist attacks and have only about $3,000 to my name, and I would love to be able to pay rent. So, oh, and if you run an organization and love to start a campaign, just hire me, please, dude. Look at all this work I just showed you. I understand how this shit works. Hire me so I can run your shit. I'm hungry. Anyway, I hope that you learned something today. I hope that this has been very helpful. I think this is very insightful, and I think this is kind of how we're gonna do the socialism thing. I'm a socialist. Did I tell you that? I did. And if you didn't realize it, this program does a little bit of socialism. We're taking back the means of organization by building it ourselves. Anyway, I don't mean to scare you with the socialism talk. If you start an organization, don't tell people it's a socialist organization. Not in 2025 anyway. Yeah, give me money, hire me, talk to your friends, offer them a ride home, talk to your coworkers and offer them a ride home. Tell the organizations that you're in that they should have a community bulletin for peer-to-peer communication. They should care for their community in the ways that they take care of an economy. They got to talk to other organizations, see how they're doing, what they need, what they're working on, or what they could work together on. And give me money. I'm broke. I'm so broke. Oh my God. Bye.